Hey everyone, and welcome to a Hangout of Witches, episode 2. This is our second hangout about A Discovery of Witches, one of our favorite new shows. And I'm Beth, and I'm having I forget what kind of wine this is, but this is my grandmother's goblets that my great Aunt Louise gave me, and they're really fun to drink out of. They're not really great to drink wine out of because they kind of a thick lip, but they're really pretty. Anyway, and I'm having jelly beans because the Easter candy was out. And it's February. It's time for Easter candy. And I'm excited to talk about episode 3 and 4 because episode 3 is my favorite episode of this season. I'm very excited about it. Everybody else say hello. Nikki, say hi.
Hi, everyone. I am Nikki. I'm thrilled to be here to talk about 03 and 04. I'm drinking some bubbly water of a cucumber melon variety and some pretzel snaps. So I may be muting myself often to crunch on those. But use the hashtag a hangout of witches or a HOW. Please use the Hangout of Witches, and we will share any awesome tweets that you send us. And we're also going to be looking at the YouTube comment section as well. Yes, so jump in there; it's really fun. Okay, Jana.
Hi, I'm Jana. I am drinking rosé and eating Valentine's Day candy. Which, the secret to Valentine's Day candy is don't celebrate Valentine's until the day after, when all the candy is 50% off.
Mega discounts.
We cleaned up. So I have Valentine's Day candy for days. And I'm excited to talk about 3 and 4. There's some good moments. There's some good moments in these episodes.
There are. Before we get into that, though, there is fandom news, which is weird because we're not like a Discovery of Witches, All Souls fandom people, really. Like we've read the books, most of us, and watched the series, but we're not like in it. But we have news to talk about. So exciting! If you're not in the fandom and you don't know, the show got picked up by AMC and the BBC, and it's going to start airing in April. Guys,
this is huge news. Huge for them.
It's huge news. Guys, I'm so excited for them. I feel like a big dork, but I'm like, just by people like us watching it and watching it more than once and tweeting about it and talking about it, like it got picked up by huge networks. Awesome.
Yes. I would love to know the download or the watch numbers just to see like what is considered good. And like for them to end up on BBC, which is like a major network, obviously outside of here and even here in the US. And then AMC, which is a mega basic cable network here in the US, is so cool. And now maybe all of our friends will watch it because who has Sundance Now or Shudder?
Nobody. We only have it so we can watch it.
I got like a $3.99 a month special though. It's not that hard to get it.
Well, I mean, obviously I got Sundance Now to watch it, and I thought I'm following them on Twitter, and all of their content practically is a Discovery of Witches. And I'm kind of looking through like what else they have, and I'm like, oh, they have the Gwyneth Paltrow Emma on this channel, and like they don't really have like a lot of original content that I'd ever heard of. So I'm pretty sure that their numbers went through the roof just with this show. I mean, I would obviously don't know for sure, but I haven't seen anything else that they've been promoting to that level. So yay.
Yay. And yay for good television that just took off on its own, essentially.
For genre television, that's adult, like I could go watch, I don't even know. There's some witch show on Netflix that's like, about a time traveling witch who goes forward in time, and she's like trying to save her owner and not like the other enslaved people that are in the 1600s or whatever. It's really weird. Anyway, I'm not watching that. It's for teenagers. And I want to watch it. Like I want to watch adult genre television, and that's what this is. And I'm so pumped. Like, good job watching it 8 million times, guys. And the show's totally bingeable. Like
it is.
It's so easy to watch. It's easy to watch like one right after the other. And it's easy to watch even like more than once, which is I think it's weird that it's like that, but it is, and I'm excited.
And it's bingeable by both sexes. Men enjoy it too, from my experience. So that's a win for everyone right there.
Yeah. Blurtlander loved it, although he some of it he thought was kind of cheesy, but I asked him tonight, I was like, you want to come and hang out with us? He was like, I don't remember that show.
But he sat down and watched it, and that's what matters.
And liked it, remembered liking it, but he's like, I don't remember enough about that to talk about it. I'm like, oh, okay. And the other good news that I find that this is exciting for me is they have not started the second season yet. And I really feel like we're going to get a boost in CGI and effects and
budget.
Funding.
Yes,
which we're definitely going to talk about
next time.
Yeah, because this is the kind of this episode 4 is the one that really hits me like, oh, like we needed a little help in a couple of areas in that type of stuff. And so I'm really looking forward to seeing how the budget expands, especially because, spoiler alert, it doesn't take place in the present day. So it was a big spoiler. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm so pumped for season 2. I loved that. I mean, even though it was a ridiculous part of the book, I loved it. The time travel and the characters.
Right. And we might actually see some more interesting actors joining the cast as various characters just because of the uptick in, prestige of the show, for lack of a better term. So that's exciting always to see possible new casting news.
I know. I'm very excited about all of that, especially Gallowglass. Like, I'm dying to find out who's going to be Gallowglass. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Kit Marlowe. Like, there's going to be Elizabeth. There's a lot going on in second season. Spoiler for all of you who haven't read it. Sorry. And I'm very excited to see what happens next. And I am really excited to see where the budget goes. I'm just pumped. This is like an exciting little fandom to be in right now. Very excited.
We got it on the ground floor, everyone.
Didn't we though?
It feels so
a good
new.
MLM.
Like Outlander 6 years ago when it was all new and fresh and we weren't jaded.
Guys, what if we're like the top tier at the MLM? We're going to get the Audi, the champagne Audi. It's going to be great.
Ask me about a Discovery of Witches on the back window.
I actually have some Discovery of Witches swag. Like, they sent me this book. Do y'all have this book, The World of All Souls?
No, I need that. Send
it's a complete guide, and it's very cool. It's like super cool.
Oh, the art, the alchemy art.
Yes, like thank you,
cool.
Thank you, Viking. That really wasn't like a Discovery. That's the TV show, but I have like a little mug. I'm feeling very, very cool right now. But anyway, Gallowglass is my number one. Like, as soon as we start figuring out like who he is, I'm gonna lose it. And Philippe, so excited. Okay.
Oh, quick. We have a tweet from Jamie, and she says she talked about the show with a cashier at the grocery store this morning, and she let her know it was coming to AMC, and she was stoked and even wrote herself a little note so she wouldn't forget.
That's awesome.
Spreading the witchy love.
That's awesome. Ryan and I talked about it in our small group a couple of weeks ago after we binged it. And a friend of mine that's in my book club and had read all of the books was across the table, and she was like, oh, I didn't know it had come out. And I was like, yeah. And then some of the men in the group were like, what are y'all talking about? And I was like, this show that we really liked. And Ryan was like, it was great. Y'all should watch it. But it's on like a weird channel. And they were like, well, what is it about? And I was like, it's about a witch who falls in love with a vampire. And I'm telling you, the guys like just shuttered down. They were like, no, we're not doing it. Like, they just quit even listening. And I was like, you'll suck. Like Harry Potter. You don't like anything cool.
They don't know what they're missing.
I know. But we aren't missing it, so good for us. Okay, so let's talk about episode 3. This one actually, well, I've said it's my favorite. I just think that artistically, episode 3 works really, really well. The way that it was adapted and then the way that it's just put together as like one episode of television. I really, really love it. The opening of that one, when Matthew's like doing his little voiceover or whatever, is the arch of her college or whatever. And that's how the episode ends when they're singing like Go Your Own Way or whatever. And it begins with just him standing there, like looking for her, I guess, like seeing if she's there, if she's not. And then it ends with them leaving through that arch together, and then they come together and hold hands. I just love this episode. I think it's so great. if I wanted to watch
it all.
Yes. I mean, if I was going to watch like one episode over and over, it would be this one. And I know it's not the sexiest episode or whatever, and it's not even the most exciting, but I just thought the whole thing is my favorite one. So I like it. Let's talk about it. We talked about last week how they didn't do vampire yoga. I actually thought when I first saw this one that that's what they were going to do. When he's like, let's go out for the day. And I was like, she's not dressed for yoga. You didn't tell her where y'all were going?
That was my instant thought too. Like, not yoga, please.
Get out of the car. Don't get in. Don't go to the trunk.
I do love how she's like, I can open my own door. Like Diana throws in they did a really good job of like throwing in her like independent streak in just like small ways. And he like, because he's so controlling and just ridiculously
so controlling.
But,
3 and 4 like were like the peak of controlling Matthew.
4 is the worst for me in terms of controlling Matthew. But it starts a little bit in 3, and especially like towards the end, he's like just packing for her while she's sleeping, and I'm like, like, get out of her
I don't want that shirt.
Which makes the fact that the song at the end is "Go Your Own Way." I'm like, no, everyone has to go Matthew's way. Is there a song with those lyrics?
You're controlling me. Well, do you think it's like one of his only like not relationships yet, but something that he's so attracted to and feels so strongly protective over. And he's like, I don't know what to do. I'm just gonna be a freak and, be so crazy until she starts calling it out, sort of.
Yeah, I think he has like emotions he's not used to having at this point. So he doesn't really know how to function. But I mean, Marcus even is like, we're used to you doing this, but you've never done it over a witch before. What's your deal? So I think he like knows he's going to do it. Like I don't think he's like surprised at himself. He's perfectly in character with what he's used to doing. I love that we get a lot of information in this one. And one of the main things that I love about this show is how they throw in information at you in very small ways. And they're not telling you everything. They're really just like showing you good information. He takes her to Woodstock. Woodstock is obviously medieval and he talks about having to board it up or whatever. And she's this historian who's basically like, I need to know more. Like, I need to know more about who you are and what's going on. And he doesn't really he doesn't sit down and give her the bones of who he is and how long he's lived there. And it's just evident in the design of the room, and it's evident in the books that she's reading and some of the questions that she asks that he barely answers. And then later on, he tells her how old he is. And later on, she gets a little bit more information. And I just love the way that they do that. And the fact that it's not this big info dump, or we don't have this big like flashback to who Matthew
voiceover.
Was. Right. Right. I love the way that they give us that information. Even Mark is helping her shop. Like in the book, they go through this whole thing about what the vampires can eat. And it's so boring. And you're just like, I don't care that they eat berries and nuts and raw meat. Like it does not interest me at all. Like, I don't know why, I'm just not into it. Like I just get to the cute stuff. And he takes her shopping, but they don't go into the whole like long stuff about what they're eating. But when she's in her room preparing for the date, you see the berries, you see the nuts, he eats the deer, he drinks the wine, and that's it. They didn't have to go into like all of that tedium, but you still get it.
Well, it's like the writers knew, hey, maybe this is not the most thrilling plot point, so let's refer to it so we can give everyone a wink, but also know that this doesn't serve the story in any thrilling capacity. Thank God.
Yes, it's like they knew exactly which points to like stick in and like make sure that they're punctuated, and the rest of them they just let them be set dressing, and so great. Like when she asks him, what would I taste like? And of course, that's not something she needs to be asking him. And it is the sticking point of that scene, instead of it being all of the other stuff that in the book she's asking him on that date night. Crazy. So we're introduced to some new characters in this one. We see Sophie and Nat for the first time. Speaking of introductions, I love Sophie's introduction. Like, she works at some like looks like a 5 and dime store or something, and she has a little demon mask and looks at the little girl out the window. And
while Demons by Imagine Dragons is playing.
It's a little heavy-handed, but at the same time, like, I don't care. Like, I like it. Like, I think it works.
It actually helped remind me about those two characters. I'm like, oh yeah.
I would have forgotten because they don't really show up until the end of the book.
Yes.
And they're giving them to us in episode 3, and I totally forget that Sophie and Nat are there. And their importance punctuated throughout the series is I just really like how they're introduced, and their house is kind of crazy. And Sophie is, I don't know who the actress is. I didn't look up her name, but I think she's great. She's just so understated and so good, and is like believably pregnant for the stage that she's in. Like, her pregnant belly is the right size for someone whose baby is just now being felt to move. And I very much appreciate the fact that the belly is not too big.
I don't know shit about that, but they probably just had a good team, I assume. But I love that they're bringing in these characters that come in later in the book and weaving them in much earlier so that we can actually fully flesh out those people as characters. We get to learn a little bit more about demons, which we don't, see as much of in the book. We're going to get to learn more about the vampires, some of the other witches. Juliet, was it this one or is it 104 that she comes in and kind of she like starts out the show?
She's in this one. Act. Well, is she in this one?
Remember when she's like making out with the guy and then she.
Well, that was the whole thing with her making out with that guy. That was the last episode. But she's not back in it until 4.
Okay.
It starts
Ignore me until we talk to 4.
No, it's okay. It starts out with Javert like bathing her and sending her off to find Matthew. And then she has that's in episode 4. But yeah, I love the way that they're punctuating like who these characters are and getting us to care about them and like recognizing who's good and who's not and who we need to root for and who we don't. It's really important and cool. And I love the way that they're doing it. And I love the idea like the demons not being allowed to be together because that's different than the vampires and the witches. Right. And why is that? Like, and Nat's mom comes in later and she's like, demons don't do well, in groups. We're really conspicuous. But it's just an interesting little tidbit that they could have, taken too long to get to, and they just didn't. It's just thrown at you just by Nat trying to get people to come together, and it's really cool. So I want to talk about the date night scene a little bit because I hate her shirt in that scene. And I realize that is silly to care about, but it kind of ruins the entire scene for me. Y'all know what shirt I'm talking about?
Remind me. I just watched them dancing and I hate that outfit too. So we can talk about that one later.
Okay.
I'm going to date night right now.
It's like a light blue. It looks like a grandmother powder blue shirt. And it has really tight sleeves that zip and then blouse out. And it's too blousey. And it just is really ugly. It looks like it would feel bad, like it would get caught on his cuticles.
I feel like
none of her outfits are very fashionable, though.
Yeah, besides that blue jacket, I hate everything else she wears for the most part.
Yeah.
And I think she's written as kind of just like not a dowdy, but just kind of a basic professor type. She has yoga pants and like the descriptions are so boring. It's definitely like Bella and Edward and Twilight, and they wear oatmeal sweaters. Like, I think they were just, feeding into whatever Deborah had written about them. But God, it's a TV show. Make them look hot. Like, who cares?
Well, that's what TV is for.
The first episode, I think she looks great. Like, I love that coat. I like her active wear. Like, and Louise Brealey, the girl who plays Jillian, her outfits are cute. I mean, like in a studious way. Like, she's wearing like a cute skirt. Anyway, that shirt was so awful. It just really takes me out of the scene. And I don't like it's so dumb, but like sometimes I'm just like, why is she dressed like that? And then when she wakes up from the date, she's wearing this big man's t-shirt and like leggings. And I'm like, you went to bed after that kiss? Like, I know you were probably humiliated, but weren't you like hot and bothered just a little bit and you wore leggings to bed? I don't think so. I don't think you wore leggings to bed.
It's like when they put Matthew in a tucked in t-shirt and it looks like he has a pot belly, and you know Matthew Good does not have a pot belly. It's just an awkward look. Like there are quite a few wardrobe, like, not a good choice.
In that date scene, he does this weird stance where he's like half turned and half looking at her and his shirt is tucked in and he's like kind of hunched. It's not a good look.
It's like Roger making love, like, I don't want to see that angle on you.
Why did Joel angle it this way? It's so sad for him. Anyway, it makes me really sad because that whole scene should be very, very hot and she looks dowdy, and in a couple of places he does not look fine, and that is unacceptable. Unacceptable.
Yep.
So I also want to talk about Matthew Good because sometimes I find it hard to believe that he could do this role without giggling. And y'all can tell me if I'm wrong about this, but like I feel like Teresa Palmer is witchy in real life. Like she has that persona about her. But like I feel like there's no way this giggly, sarcastic, smart person can say some of these lines without busting out laughing or doing them with a straight face. Like he's doing great. He's doing awesome. Don't get me wrong. I don't think that he's like breaking and it's obvious or anything like that. I just feel like I anticipate that one day there'll be a Blu-ray and the bloopers will be really good. Like, especially when he has to be like really vampiric and
growling. And I mean, that one point where she asked him how old he is, I like literally just wanted to yell, he's 17. He's been 17 for a while. Like it literally had that feel in the delivery. He's probably like, what did I get myself into?
I know. That's what I'm thinking. Like sometimes he's like, what did my character actually just say? Because some of it is so overwrought with like the lore of it all. And I'm just like, he can't possibly be getting through this and thinking this was a good choice.
Yeah, I wouldn't call the dialogue in the show very inspired. Like they get a lot of things right, but the dialogue is simple and like heavy and raw, like you were saying. And like sometimes you can see him like trying to like kind of make this vampire face, but you know he just wants to like break out in giggles because it's so ridiculous.
It makes me sad. But I mean, I'm so glad he's in it. I wouldn't want it to be somebody who thought it was like was super earnest about it. Like if it was Sam Heughan, I'd be like, shut up with your earnest vampire shit. Get out of my face. I'm so glad that it's somebody that I can kind of tell is like elevating it because he thinks it's kind of silly.
Mm-hmm. And he knows, he knows. He's not taking his own dialogue very seriously. Like he's doing it well, but not taking it
right.
too
and
serious.
It's good enough. Like it is good. It's so good that it doesn't. It's
not too bad.
Yeah, you're not constantly thinking about the fact that what he's saying is really dumb.
And maybe we talk so much. I feel like we're very positive for the most part about this show, but that is one of the areas like, hey, that could be elevated in season 2 when they head on to AMC. Maybe they could, think a little bit more on that dialogue.
And I think too, maybe, hopefully, without it being so the falling in love aspect of it, maybe some of that won't be so cheesy. Like when he walks into the lab and he's like, what are you doing? If anybody's going to be taking her blood, it's going to be me. And you're like, what?
I feel like it's kind of explained, and I didn't pick this up until the second time I watched it. Like he takes the blood and he takes like the needle out and a single blood drop wells up and you see Miriam and Marcus kind of like, ugh.
Yeah.
So like, okay, he could have just been trying to be like protective, but I didn't pick that up the first time and I thought it was so stupid.
Yeah. But also they deal with blood all the time. One drop. Unless she is some like special whatever, but it's just
she's
him
a special
that
snowflake.
She's special too.
Yeah. It was his Carlisle moment.
Yes.
Carlisle / Edward moment. But I mean, you do see them like kind of like blood in the room.
They went Jasper.
Really, yeah, they pulled a Jasper on that. I mean, it is really silly because they didn't build up to it enough. It doesn't really like make a lot of sense for him to all of a sudden be like, her blood, because he hasn't been really talking about it that much. Even though it's post the date scene, I think. Is it?
Yeah, I think so.
I do like, there's like a scene transition, and this is really vampire and cheesy, but there's a scene transition when he's leaving the date and he walks out of her room and he like puts his jacket on like a swish. Right. And it just kind of juxtaposes.
It was a hot swish.
Yeah. And he'd just been talking about how like humans have all of these superstitions that come up because of the way that they are. And it's just like, it's such like a vampire move to like swish his jacket on and for the scene to change. And I was like, yeah.
He should have like moved his hair and there have been like a crazy widow's peak. Like just a little Bella Lugosi moment.
Like maybe he could have kissed her back and like bitten her lip and his canine is a little bit extended, just a little bit. That would have been nice. So the witch wind ends this episode, and I actually like, out of all of the effects that we've seen so far, or that we've seen through episode 4 with the witch water and the glowing thing, this one is the one that I like the most. I like the way it looks when she turns around. I like the fact that it like unknots her hair. I think that Peter Knox flying over the desk is good. And then somehow she all of a sudden becomes overwrought. Like she gets scared of it and you can't really tell why that's happening. Like, why is she scared instead of being powerful? And it doesn't make a lot of sense. And I like that it's juxtaposed with his like super duper running stance. Like she's blowing up and he's running, and I like that scene, and I like him saving her. And like, he like literally holds her butt. He like comes in, I think like, hold on to your butts. Like he grabs her butt and holds on to her. And I like it. I like the witch wind scene. I'm into it. Thoughts?
Yeah, I think how they did it is one of the better superpowers, or whatever we call these things, abilities that they were able to show without it looking really terrible. And I like that there are like all these other people around and like all the stuff is blowing, and it looked great. And I like that it scared her a little, like, oh crap, what did I just unlock in myself that I didn't know was something I could do?
Yeah. I would have preferred it, and I guess they just didn't want to ruin their set. I would have preferred it if like the very heavy tables and light fixtures and windows and things and books were also kind of flying. But I guess like the point is that she's targeted him specifically, but then it kind of goes out of control. I don't know. I just thought like if she didn't have control and it was that powerful, I really feel like it would have destroyed the library to some degree.
Right.
But I guess that's
I wish it would have been just a little more impressive, because I feel like we've seen some other really good magic in the show, like Satu's. She has like the ring of fire. So it just, for me, it was like they're making such a big deal about the witch wind. I'm like, it was a wind. So I wish you would have gotten more of a sense what like a big deal it was.
Yeah.
But my first thought was like, Diana, the books.
You know, she was probably dying. Don't mess them up.
She did a great job of looking scared and confused and knowing what the hell was going on.
Right. Speaking of Satu, she has a great trench coat at the beginning of this episode. It's excellent, and I really liked it.
Satu is like very Norwegian, whatever that area would be. Looks amazing. They do get her right.
Yeah.
For me, she looks so cool.
Yeah. And she had that like eraser sand just in her pocket. She's like on it. She knew exactly what she needed. She's like, I need this eraser sand to see this. I'm going to carry it in my pocket. She's very prepared.
Eraser sand is handy.
It is.
Also, Domenico is kind of hot. I know he's a big jerk.
Yes, he's very hot.
He came in that scene. I was like, oh.
Yes, he's very hot. That's in my notes. Domenico is hot. Yeah.
Dude.
He's like kind of one of the only vampires that I find other than Miriam. I think Miriam and Domenico are the hottest vampires.
Yeah.
or the only two that like look like hot vampires.
And kind of give you like that vampire immortal.
Yeah.
They just have that aura.
Yeah.
But they're not, and like they're not about to burst into giggles. Sorry, my child just shouted from the top of the stairs that he got poops out. So
we didn't hear it. So.
Okay, good.
But now we heard it.
Now we know.
He's yelling to be wiped. So I'm trying to like get my thought out and then mute myself.
Well, I have a funny joke that came in on Twitter. Katie Grace said, if Matthew had spent some more time on the Bowflex, he wouldn't have gotten so knocked around by the witch wind.
Katie Grace, if you have jokes, you have to join us on a hangout of witches. No more of this Twitter nonsense.
She also hated the paunch. So she's one of us.
Yeah. It's not his fault. That was an angle problem.
He probably doesn't have a paunch.
He probably does not have a paunch at all. Everybody can look like they have a paunch no matter how they're sitting. He does not have one. He is skinnier than everybody I know. So let's talk about episode 4, because I already said how much I love the way episode 3 ends. Episode 4 starts with Septour and Isabeau standing there. And our good friend Karen says that she thinks Isabeau is terribly miscast. And I felt like we needed to talk about it.
But I definitely, I felt like it would be like a darker vibe and younger a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But
I think the contrast of having Isabeau be the younger, because in the book she's described as like looking the same age as Matthew. Mm-hmm. And I think that would have been a really cool conflict. I mean, Lindsay, I don't know her last name.
The Duncan?
Lindsay I think so. Like, she does great. But if you would have read the book and known that she's supposed to be like a woman in her 30s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think they were like, oh, it's too weird to have someone who's the same age. Like, this would be easier for you to, like, a viewer to, that's the mom and he's the son, and you know.
Yeah.
I don't think it's an exciting choice, but
it wasn't a very good reason.
The only time it bothers me, like, I recognize she doesn't look how I thought Isabeau was meant to look, right? But the only time it really bothers me is like when they're dancing, because I'm expecting like vampire level dancing. I want it to be seeing spins, and I want to see like it being fast and cool and strong and like this really amazing, like Fred Astaire, Ginger Rogers like dance. And it's so gentle and slow. And like, I'm an old lady and I can only go this far. And I was just like,
I'm this close to breaking a hip.
Yeah. Like she can barely lean back. And I'm like, this is not what two vampires who've been dancing together for 1,000 years look like when they dance together. And it just irritated me. And I thought if she presented as a younger vampire, that would have been something they would have done more readily. But other than that, it doesn't really bother me. I think that Lindsay Duncan has amazing gravitas. Like, she's very solemn and aware, self-aware, and just plays it really, really well. It does make me wonder about Philippe when he's cast, like if he's going to be specifically elderly, because he's meant to be like
gorgeous
Achilles
and virile, and
how
are you going to cast that as a
he's like a Greek
70-year-old man?
Yeah, he's like a Greek god in like literally like Achilles. You know what I mean? Like, he's meant to be amazing and young, and I just am wondering how that's going to work. I'm sure that they'll cast someone in his
older
50s or 60s. But I still like her. I really like her in this episode. Other than the dancing scene. I'm not into the dancing scene at all, but it doesn't bother me.
I think she lends a nice maturity to the situation of people who are kind of the same age. And then you're like, oh, she's been around the block, even though no, she's been around the block as long as Matthew. But to see her and Marta is like a nice foil, kind of like the ants when they show up again.
Yeah. And I actually like the idea that the vampires in this world, at least the way that they're presenting them in the show, are not superhumanly like adolescent in the same way like Twilight vampires are. You know, they don't retain youthful beauty. They just get frozen as they are. So Marta looks like the 60-year-old woman that she was when she was sired. And that, I mean, I think that that's cool. So other than Miriam and Domenico, who are gorgeous.
Katie brings up a good point on Twitter. She says, I'm all for mature ladies getting roles, but she is supposed to have been made before cuneiform was invented, and no one would have lived to be that old back then. Good point.
Really? That's how old she's supposed to be? I didn't realize that she was Mesopotamian, but okay. So we see Juliet in this episode again. We were mentioning her earlier. I hate Juliet as a character. I like the way she was introduced last week, but I didn't love her in this. I just don't like her anymore. Like, I like her as the kind of rogue vampire who's out like just feeding on people, but I don't love her as like Gebert's protege out to get Matthew. She's supposed to be dangerous. Like, Marcus is scared. Miriam has to come save him. And I just don't buy that really. And I don't love it.
Yeah, the actress who's playing her does not give off those vibes at all. And you're really hoping that she's going to be some scary ass person, but she's definitely not. I do like what she ends up doing with the head or whatever that thing is, but that just means she's a normal human. Maybe. Wait, was that her? No, someone else.
The head?
That was Sato.
Sato?
Kidding.
Yeah, that's Sato. Yeah. Huh?
I gotta take notes.
Sato. I know. Yeah. I didn't take notes this time, and I'm like, what happened?
Just another binge opportunity.
It's hard to really know what her, like, why is she there? I mean, because you've got the congregation and the demons, and it's like, okay, she's obsessed with Matthew. And, like, yeah, it comes into play later, but.
I mean, at the very least, we're getting it before later on when she's just showing up and you're like, who is she?
7 or wherever.
Right. So there's that aspect of it that's good. And Miriam does say, eternity is a really long time to be after somebody who doesn't want you or whatever. So they do explain who she is and why she's doing what she's doing. I just don't love it in this episode. I don't really love it later on either. Like, there's just something about it that doesn't work for me, except when she like takes charge and leaves and like she goes her own way. When she like gets up out of the church and just leaves Gerbert, like that's later on. But like when she does that, I'm like, yes, girl, go. You like, you don't need that old Pope. Like, you go. So
have some agency, some crazy, demented agency. But
speaking of like the congregation and some of the other vampires, this is the first episode where we get everybody together. So we see the 9, we see the trilogy of trilogies. See the keys, we see where they meet. And I'm curious, like, is the I meant to like look it up in the World of All Souls book, which is why I have it sitting out. Is the congregation just European? Because the Madison Coven thinks that they have authority. Peter Knox has authority over Diane, even though she lived in the United States, but they've been talking about how it's all white male at some point. And they meet in Europe, and everyone seems to be, other than Agatha, who's the only like woman of color, and Domenico, who's Venetian, which is still European. Like, no one seems to be representing any other area of the world. I think one of the demons might have been Asian, but I mean, it just seems weird to me. Like, are they the congregation for all the creatures all over the world, or are they just for, I don't know, Europe and North America or something?
I think they must be, because of how they have dominion over the American witches that we know. Mm-hmm. I think for casting purposes, they happen to be of a European flavor. And because probably, if you think about it, the congregation has been around longer than America has been a country, and maybe some of these other places. So that might be all the meeting and whatnot there.
Faith says something. Faith just said in YouTube, they have the New Orleans history, which makes it a little bit more believable to book readers. Yeah, there's something about Juliet is from there, or they used to have the congregation used to meet there or something. I can't remember. Something was going on in New Orleans.
I remember from the book, like, Matthew lived in New Orleans for a little bit, and maybe that's even where he made Marcus, or Marcus was there. I don't remember. They were in America for a bit.
Some dark story about whatever happened in New Orleans, and they're like very cagey about talking about it. I remember that, but
I want to say that's where he met Juliet.
That would make sense.
And then Faith just said Matthew and Juliet kill Marcus's family. Yikes!
Oops, spoiler.
That's a lot. That's a lot. How about that fidget cube that Knox uses on Satu to like put her down like that? You know what fidget cubes are? It's like that little thing that he's got in his hand that like controls her and like knocks her down, like makes her cry or whatever. It looks just like a fidget cube. Fidget cube is like this little cube with a bunch of different little things on it for kids that have ADHD, so they can like fidget with it during class.
I've heard of the spinners, but I haven't heard of the cubes.
The cube is like one side's got a flicker, one side's got like a little, rounded about, one's got like a little metal balls. Anyway, there's a bunch of little things that it does. And that's exactly what that thing looks like. It's a little fidget cube. It's like his little magic, like, and then you like twist it. And that's exactly what my daughter does all day long when she's like taking tests. So I was like, witchy fidget cube. But I do like the fact that you see Satu kind of like recognizing, he's telling her that she's brought in there to be his ally. And she's recognizing that she's going to have to take control over it on, she's got to find a better ally because he's not.
He's not telling her the full truth.
Right.
And they're definitely hinting pretty heavily in the story that she's more than she seems. Yeah. And I haven't even read all the books, but I can draw the conclusions.
Yeah, she's important. And I always wondered like how she got on the congregation. Like he just went to Scandinavia and grabbed a witch and was like, this is it. Like they don't have to vote on who's on it or whatever. They don't have to be important. They don't have to be from anywhere. They can just be whoever. It's kind of weird, but
he's all powerful. Duh.
Yeah, I guess so. Diana and Isabeau and their relationship in this episode. I am with Isabeau in this episode for the most part. Like, I feel like Diana is rude to her. For her to walk into Philippe's office and be like, how did he die? I want to be like, holy shit. Like, you don't know anything about how vampires die, number one. So it could be like super duper horrific. And spoiler alert, I'm not going to say how he dies, but it is horrific. And like, I can't imagine Isabeau telling her. But the fact that she asks, like knowing now what happens, the fact that she asks is bananas to me. So I'm like super team Isabeau in this episode when she's like, get out.
I felt the same way. One of my issues with Matthew was, he's kind of telling Diana, no, you don't get to go back to your family. You're going to go to my house where you'll have to live with my mother who hates witches and could possibly eat you. And then he's also telling his mother, I know you hate witches. I'm going to bring one into your house and you're going to have to be nice to her and give her the run of the place. So I feel like Matthew is just rude to all the women in his life.
Yeah.
So I am definitely like, no, that's not fair to Isabel.
It's not. And even like at the end of this episode, when Domenico comes and threatens them, he like stands over Isabeau when he decides he's going to leave. He's like, you guard her with your life. And she like cowers down a little bit. And she's like, yes, Matthew. And I just want to be like, what is going on?
Have more respect for your mother.
Like he has some sort of like alpha pheromone or something that she has to like cow down to. Like he's
the head of the family.
Black. Yeah.
They all start communicating in their heads about something. That would be amazing.
I am the grandson of the chief.
Yes.
Twilight jokes.
It all goes back to Twilight.
Let's film one of these on like a abandoned logging mill where there's a beach nearby and we can reenact that.
Can't wait. I can't wait. Where's Buttcrat Santa?
Done.
But also this episode is the episode where Diana learns a lot. She finds out about the covenant. She finds out about a little bit more about Matthew's past and a lot about his family. Nothing about how he hunts because that's next episode. But I still don't feel like we got information dumps. So like kudos still to the way that they're writing this, but that part works out really well. But then the love aspect of of this episode 4, it hits you like a sledgehammer, man. Like they're barely glancing at each other in the car. They've shared one kiss, one requited
Which Matthew was like, he did not even go 10% on that kiss. It was all Diana, and then he just leaves.
It's a mega insta-love moment. And you're like, I don't know about this. And then you kind of want to laugh at how it happens.
It's
but they're faded mates, so it's okay. Diana's mom told her stories about him.
They're faded.
Okay, so they go on a horse ride. She takes this is what happens. He wakes her up in her dorm room and is like, we're going to my house. And she's like, no. And he's like, yes. And they go. And when as they're driving there,
I love you.
As they're driving there, they share a couple of looks, like, which I think they're driving on the wrong side of the road because they're in France and they should be in regular cars and he's still on the right side of the road, but whatever. So they're sharing looks in the car. They get out and she asks him a couple of questions and meets his mom and she treats him like trash. She takes a nap. She wakes up and has like problems with Isabeau and they go horseback riding. She asks about somebody, then she gets threatened by Domenico, and then they dance and she glows, which is terrible. That outfit is awful. That outfit is the worst.
It's like they don't know what to do with her cleavage. They don't know how to dress it. So they just put it.
Oh, she's a breastfeeding mom.
The baggiest.
It's a halter, and it should be flattering for someone who has a little bit of cleavage, and it's just like badly tailored. And
I mean, I get that she's nursing, and so they were unpredictable in their size, so they did a lot of draping probably instead of like fitted stuff. But it's awful. Like it's bad.
It just doesn't look good on her. It's not pretty. Not a good color.
Sucks. But anyway, I just don't like the dancing scene. I feel like the glow up, basically, that she does should have been built up more. Like their dance goes from being awkward to being good to being the glow. And you're like, give me more of like the real tango. Show me them like really going at it, or her all of a sudden becoming really super duper good at it for a little bit longer. Let her glow as they're dancing and then show it out. Like it's like they pulled apart and they're staring at her, but you don't know why for a couple of seconds. And then she gets glowy.
You couldn't tell what it was because I was watching and Joe was like, what's happening? And I was like, oh yeah, she's supposed to be glowing. What? And it's just like blue on her hands or something.
It's just like barely kind of moving under her arms. And I was like, that's why they put her in this like halter so you could see her arms, and it just does not work.
Yeah. I mean, this is just one of the bad like CGI moments of this episode. So
I feel like it was badly edited too. Like it just went too quickly and didn't spend more time like filling out why this is different. And they immediately go outside and he's like, that's the first time I've ever seen you enjoying your magic. And you're like, what magic did she just do? Like, I get that she glowed.
It was all unintentional.
She enjoyed it. You weren't in it long enough for me to tell that she was enjoying it. Like they should have gone back to dancing with her, like all aglow or whatever, just something more than what we got to tell you what was really happening.
Right.
He does grab her butt though in that kiss. That was nice.
I have to rewatch this. I think it's like this is like they're the victim of having too much to cram into 8 episodes. And for the most part, 95% of the time really rising to the occasion. And then the other times you're like, wait, we needed a few more minutes to a little more exposition on this, which is like the opposite of Outlander, who spends 4 episodes would have spent 4 episodes on the exposition of glowing and cramming everything into the last 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Not that I'm bitter, but
well, the problem with Outlander is they would take a whole episode and show Jamie failing at being a laird, even though that's what Jamie was brought up to do and would be excellent at it. They do a whole episode of that just to fit in something that doesn't matter. That's the problem with Outlander. This show does not have that problem. In fact, they do really cool things like when Isabeau's talking to Matthew in this episode, she looks at him and she says something to the effect of, it's her kind and nobody else that killed Philippe. And she looks right at him and says that. Like, and for knowing what happened to Philippe, that's like a really cool line for her to say in that moment to his face. The way she says it, it's just like a really cool tidbit, something that's important and something that's not going to pay off until way later in the second season. And so it just that kind of stuff I really appreciate about this show. The fact that there's more going on under the surface that you get to see. And but then of course there's the things that are a little bit disappointing, but it's okay. Somebody is saying she's confused with not seeing the chat entries on YouTube. I'm sorry, Tanya, you should be able to see everybody's stuff other than yours. There's not a whole lot of people on the YouTube channel. That may be why you're not seeing everything. I don't know if you have the settings wrong or something. I'm sorry. We find out that Diana's parents are killed by witches. Matthew figures this out. It doesn't seem to bother Diana as much as I thought it was going to. Anybody else? And she doesn't ask her aunts about it.
About
like she doesn't call them and is like, who killed my parents? Did you know it was witches?
Yeah, I mean, the whole parent story is she just kind of takes it at face value, and you think, you know, as a child and your parents are murdered, and maybe you would want to know a little bit more about what happened and ask your family. But again, we will learn, is spellbound, and maybe that's part of it, that she just hasn't been able to tap into a point of wanting to find that information out. I don't know.
She has been seeing her parents a lot, though, because like she sees her dad at the library and her mom in a dream. I don't remember if that's episode 3 or 4, but like they're trying to make her parents a big part of the story. I don't remember how she reacts to Matthew telling her that they were killed.
My dog is so loud.
I was gonna say, I'm like, who has a dog? Who has a sad dog?
She wants this brownie. You can't have a brownie. You will die. But yeah, I don't remember. She just, there's no reaction, I don't think. I just feel like it's kind of, I don't know. It seems like it's kind of over. She goes down and talks to Isabeau and is like, there's good and bad in every species. My parents were good, but witches killed them too. You know, like she just has this conversation with Isabeau that's kind of
so
antagonistic.
blasé.
Yeah. She's being antagonistic about it instead of being like torn up about something that should really kind of be a big problem for her.
Yeah, you think she'd be horrified that her own kind killed her parents.
Yeah.
I just think she spends so much time just staring at Matthew. That is her reaction to life. Just staring deeply into Matthew's eyes.
Well, I would too if I were her. She's very attractive.
Maybe I would too if he was my Matthew.
However, let's talk about the very ending of episode 4 as we wrap this up, because what is it? Why is it should be the lovers are being torn apart. You're finding out that at least one of them, really you're finding out that both of them are in love with each other, but Matthew tells his mother, and in Occitan, or however you say that language, and Diana tells him in the most blasé, boring way ever, and then it's like, stop it right now. And like she does wants him to stop acting that way, and it's so painfully bad and embarrassing. And I just wanted way more out of that. And then she leaves and starts to cry, and I'm very unimpressed with Witchwater. Just
the rain, you mean? The light
Witchwater
rain.
is rain. No thunder, no lightning.
No filling up of water. No singing from Isabeau. Nothing.
Yeah, it's supposed to be that she like becomes water, right?
Yeah.
She, from her eyes, from her orifices, from her body,
come out everywhere.
Yeah, it's supposed to rush out of her. I get why they can't CGI it like that, but I still felt like maybe instead of just a regular rain machine, they should have had like a deluge or something. But it was just not,
or like
enough.
A tank or something, like a lot of water.
Like have
the whole courtyard start to flood or something.
Yes.
But just rain? Again, like not super impressed with Diana's power. This special snowflake of a witch.
A light wind, a gentle rain.
Yeah. Even if like
get ready for fire.
Even if like the tears that she's shedding, like she sheds them, and then as they come off of her face, you see them get huge and hit the ground like these big droplets of water. Anything else than it just looking like it just started raining. That's
right.
And you have to have Isabeau come out and be like, you know, she's doing this. She's doing this and that's it. So I was disappointed with that. But
I mean, water is one of the hardest things for them to do, CGI and any sort of effects that mimic. So yes, got it. But maybe just be more creative, you know?
Yeah.
In the actual execution. And maybe maybe they'll get some more budget when they head over to AMC and BBC.
That's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping the
Fingers
next
crossed.
time we see any, like, because there's a lot of magic in the second book, and I'm hoping that all of that is much better. But the only real, I mean, I understood when I was watching it, like, small budget. Okay, witch water. But I was very disappointed with the scene that came before. I mean, that part could have easily been better. And I don't know if, like,
you mean like the goodbye scene when Matthew leaves?
Yeah, just
tell me how you feel.
Yeah,
and he just goes. And then literally the next time they see each other, they are like mated for life in 5 seconds.
I know. And they have one phone conversation between that. It's not even as good as Pam and Jim's conversation from season 3 when he accidentally calls and gets her trying to get Kevin on fantasy football. And they talk for like 2 hours. And it's great. They barely talk. And she's just like, goodbye. And the next time
they like exchange information and that's it. And then, like, he gets back, and it must be episode 5.
I love you.
Yeah.
Tell me.
It's preternatural love. To use a favorite word of the series.
It is, yes.
And it's disappointing because, like, I was here for Matthew and Diana in book 1. Like, I loved it. But they also spent, like, the first half of that 400 or 500-page book building up the relationship.
Yeah.
So you can really tell that's missing from the show.
Yeah.
Because I don't feel those two at all.
They're going to do some of that in the next episode. So there's more love to come. It was just disappointing in this particular episode that it felt very rushed and like they didn't earn it. And he didn't earn that I love you because he spent the whole episode being possessive. And Teresa Palmer really didn't do it very well. And, you know, you just kind of left feeling like that felt like literally a daytime soap opera that I just saw. Like up into Isabel, like grabbing her arm saying, let him go. And her just like, I mean, it was cliche after cliche and it just did not work for me. And I'm very sad about that. I wanted it to be better. But we get better stuff later on. There is somebody in the YouTube chat. Do not talk to him. He's saying ugly things that you guys can't see. So don't talk to Maniac much, okay? So anyway, anything else we want to say about these 2 episodes before we leave for the night?
No, I'm very thrilled. Let's talk soon about the next one.
Yes. 5 and 6. We'll talk about 5 and 6 very soon. We're going through these rapid fire, guys. Rapid fire Hangout of Witches. But we have a lot to talk about because I think that 5 and 6 are really good too. And I don't know. There's a lot coming up. I hope that we get like good. Maybe we'll figure out like what's going on in terms of like AMC and BBC by the next time that we talk. We'll find out like what some of those numbers are. What's going on in the fandom. We're gonna find out some more stuff. Maybe we'll get casting news or something fun. I really want fun stuff to happen.
Or like a date for when the next season will either be shooting or on the air.
Yeah. A shooting schedule will be great. I'm very here for that.
Amazing.
I mean, because they were renewed for a second season, right?
Yeah. The second and third have been renewed. Yeah, for sure.
So there has to be some kind of work being done on it.
They're in pre-production, but they haven't started shooting because she's pregnant.
Again?
Yes.
You go, girl.
Yeah. So she, I think, is giving birth in April. So I think it'll be maybe June or so before they start filming. So anyway.
Fine. Make us wait.
Yes. I'll be excited to see if it airs alongside with Outlander season 5, and we'll ignore one and not the other. That's my plan.
2020, here we come.
Yeah. Faith just says she feels like we need more than 8 episodes in season 2.
Didn't it already say that they got 10? I think it said they get 10.
Yeah, I think that is a bigger order. So that's good. And especially with bigger networks. BBC,
So
AMC.
good.
More
Yay.
episodes. Yay for us. Yay for this show. I'm so excited about it. All right, guys. Good night. Thank you for joining us for Hangout of Witches. We will see you guys in a couple of weeks, and we will talk about the next 2 episodes.
Bye.
See ya.
Bye.